What's up, my guys and geeks? The Star Wars Acolyte TV series is coming soon, and with it, we're going to get to see a whole new era of Star Wars and brand new rivalries formed right before our faces. And that got me thinking, what are some of the best rivalries in Star Wars history? So today I've put together my list for the top 5 Star Wars rivalries of all time, ranked from my least favorite to the most favorite. Alright, if you go on to enjoy this video, be sure to subscribe, hit that notifications bell for the next Awesome Geek Space upload, and be sure to put in the comment section down below your favorite Star Wars rivalries. This list is just my opinion, and with that, let's get started. In 5th place, I have Anakin and Count Dooku.
Good. Twice the pride, double the foe.
And this is a rivalry that I think is really helped by the Clone Wars animated show, as is true for a lot of the rivalries on this list. Because in Attack of the Clones, you get to see that rivalry begin. You get to see how Anakin's headstrong and brash nature leads to him losing his arm and losing so badly against Dooku. But then in the Clone Wars show, you get to see how the two go back and forth, and neither really manages to get the best of the other. Anakin consistently thwarts Dooku's plans, but is never able to capture him or arrest him and bring him to the Jedi Order, while Dooku is able to divert Anakin or defeat him in battle, but is never able to stop him from interfering with the Separatist agenda. And getting to see all this back and forth is made much more interesting by the context, knowing that Anakin will kill Dooku in Revenge of the Sith, knowing that Palpatine is pitting them against each other, training Anakin to be his new apprentice, while leading Dooku to believe that he is the one who will help Palpatine rule the galaxy.
Do it.
But essentially seeing how Palpatine is manipulating both of them and pitting them against each other, and how neither of them is truly able to prevail and get the best of the other, makes this one of my favorite Star Wars rivalries. Next up, in 4th place, we've got Grievous versus Obi-Wan Kenobi.
General Kenobi!
And this one's just a classic because of the dynamic these two have. How Grievous, while he possesses an absurd amount of hatred for the Jedi as a whole, seems to particularly despise Obi-Wan.
Jedi scum!
And how Obi-Wan consistently tries time and time again to capture Grievous, and how he's so close every time, how he's always able to get the better of Grievous, but Grievous is just clever enough, just smart enough, has just enough help in place that he's able to escape and go on to be a menace another day. And just getting to see that back and forth, and the iconic one-liners it spawns, such as hello there, but just the iconic back and forth these two have, and how it ultimately culminates in Obi-Wan defeating General Grievous, just makes it a really great rivalry. But next up, in 3rd place, we've got Grand Admiral Thrawn and the Rebels.
Alright, Thrawn, your move.
This one is from Star Wars Rebels, the sequel show, and I think I debated whether to just put Ezra and Thrawn as this rivalry, since they are the main part of it. But what's unique about Thrawn is that he's able to personally attack and personally harm so much of the Ghost crew, whether it be capturing them or doing damage to something that's important to them, or using some of their own techniques or weaponry or ideals against them. You just get to see how Thrawn and his incredible strategic mind is able to continually chip away at the Rebels and at their bond and at their goals and ideals, and how ultimately that forces the Rebels to kind of be willing to make sacrifice plays or sacrifice themselves and lay down their lives in order to protect their fellow crewmates from Thrawn, because he is such a great threat.
They'll be the architects of their own destruction.
And then while I wasn't fully satisfied with the Ahsoka TV show, I think Thrawn and Ezra were by far probably the best parts of that show, particularly getting to see how much Ezra continues to be a thorn in Thrawn's side years after their initial meeting and their initial conflict, and just getting to see how it's ultimately a rivalry between the Rebels and Thrawn that will continue for the ages. Next up, in second place, we've got Anakin and Obi-Wan. And this one I debated whether I should even consider it a rivalry, since they are friends and brothers for so much of their time on screen. But really, you get to see how from the very beginning, there is kind of a rivalry dynamic set up between them. In Phantom Menace, while they have no animosity or bad feelings towards each other, they yet still are kind of put slightly at odds, just by the nature of Qui-Gon having Obi-Wan as his Padawan, but kind of wanting to push Obi-Wan off to the side in order to train Anakin and take him on as his new Padawan. And you get to see how they're kind of forced together by Qui-Gon's untimely death, and how by the time Attack of the Clones rolls around, they have bonded, they have become like brothers, but yet still there's that tension under the surface. Anakin feels like Obi-Wan is too strict, and he and the Jedi Council are holding him back.
He's holding me back!
While Obi-Wan fears that he's not training Anakin properly, and feels that his headstrong and brash nature is going to lead to ruin. And you get to see throughout the Clone Wars how that's even furthered, how there is this deep love and respect and admiration that both men have for each other, but yet still how they're so ideologically opposed, how Anakin is so much more emotional in his actions and his thinking and his decision making than Obi-Wan is, and how they're different worldviews, their different perspectives on the Jedi Order kind of end up consistently causing a little bit of friction between the two, even though they do still care about each other. And then, of course, it all comes to a head in Revenge of the Sith, where you're able to see how Palpatine manipulates Anakin, uses Anakin's love not just for Obi-Wan, but also for Padme and for his mother and for all these other people, and how he takes Anakin's desire to protect those who are closest to him and uses it to turn Anakin away from the Jedi.
You shall be known as Darth Vader.
How the Jedi Order's own failings to allow Anakin to experience and acknowledge his emotions, how they're insisting that he stuff down his emotions and his feelings and ignore them, how that kind of leads to tension between Obi-Wan, who follows the Jedi Order much more strictly, and Anakin, who feels like they are mistaken in a lot of ways. And then you get to see in the Kenobi series how even after Anakin's turn to the dark side, there is still this tension between the two. How Anakin and Darth Vader are the same person and yet different, and how both of them have this complex relationship with Obi-Wan, and how Obi-Wan really feels like he failed Anakin, but yet still he must stand up to defeat Darth Vader. And
you didn't kill Anakin Skywalker.
Just kind of the emotions that brings to the surface. And of course, it all comes to a head when they duel in A New Hope, but just the consistency of this kind of tension beneath the surface, and yet this deep love and bond that the two have, makes for one of the greatest Star Wars rivalries. But in first place, as most of you probably could have predicted, I put two of my favorite Star Wars characters, Darth Maul and Obi-Wan.
Kenobi!
And this is just really where they were able to make something out of nothing. In The Phantom Menace, Maul is much more of an enemy of Qui-Gon, I would say, than Obi-Wan. Until the very last battle where Maul is able to kill Qui-Gon, I really didn't feel like there was much of any rivalry between Obi-Wan and Maul. But you see how in that instant where Maul kills Qui-Gon, Obi-Wan instantly forms a hatred for Maul that will last the entire rest of Maul's life. And how when Obi-Wan slices Maul in half and strikes him down, Maul forms this lasting loathing for Obi-Wan that literally is what sustains him for the next several years of his life.
I have plans, Kenobi.
He survives off of his sheer hatred for and desire to get revenge on Obi-Wan. And then you get to see how after he makes his return with his brother Savage, he's willing to go to these incredible lengths in order to get revenge on Obi-Wan.
We meet again, Kenobi.
You get to see how far he's willing to go, how much he's willing to do in order to hurt Obi-Wan, try to make him feel some of the pain that Maul believes Obi-Wan has caused to him. And ultimately, you get to see how their story ends in Rebels, and get to see how Maul's unrelenting dedication to destroying Obi-Wan, to getting revenge on Obi-Wan, is what proves to be his ultimate undoing.
He will avenge us.
But I believe just because of the hatred these two have for each other and how intensely personal their rivalry is, it is the best Star Wars rivalry we've ever seen. But alright, those are my top 5 Star Wars rivalries. Be sure to give me your list in the comments down below. And if you enjoyed this video, be sure to give it a thumbs up, subscribe, and hit that notifications bell for more awesome Geek Space content. If you want to see how Star Wars and Stranger Things are in the same universe, you can click on this side of the screen. And if you want to see me rank my top 5 Star Wars characters, you can click on this side of the screen. But you've only got 3 seconds because this video is about to end. Adios!